To install VS Code, so what you need to do is search for VS Code. It will bring you to visualstudios.com. Click the download button. If you're on Windows, you click the Windows download button. If you're on different OS like on Linux, you either download the Debian or RPM format, or you're on Mac, you download the Mac format. So if you're Windows, in this case Windows, we just click Windows. It will bring you to another page and the download will start over here. So once it download completed, you just basically just double click the exe file. It will just start the installation, and it's pretty quick. Once you install the VS Code, and when you launch a VS Code, you'll see a welcome screen like this. Okay, so you can disable the screen so that it wouldn't show up every time you start up. And I'm going to expand the workaround a little bit just for this class. I'm going to show you a link where you can get a full tutorial or full explanation of which part of user interface, how to use them and what they do. So to open out a folder, you can click this open folder, or the other way you can do is just to drag the folder inside. Like for instance, I got the digital class empty folder here on my desktop, so I just had to drag it inside. So as you can see that it opened up the digital class folder over here. Okay, so in this particular folder, which is called digital class, you can actually create a new file or even create a new folder internally. So let me expand this so that it's easier to see. Okay, so we can create a new file here. Say we call it index.html, and the index.html will open on the separate in the editor area. You can also create a folder, say image. Okay, so you can create inside the folder. You can, of course, you can create additional file as well. The other thing is this sidebar on the right hand side. I'm going to go through 3 of them. One is actually the Explorer. So Explorer lets you see what is inside the folder and also the file as well as subfolder. So you can or you can have a search function, the second one, that you can search either a folder, a file, or even something inside the file, inside this, let's say for instance HTML file is. Okay, the last one I want to talk about is actually the extension. So this extension is very similar to Google Chrome extension. You can add or rather some sort of like a plugin to make it work much better. For instance, in my VS Code, I got 2 extensions installed. One is called ES7 React, which I'm not going to go through. The other one is actually Live Server. In the later part of the class, I will show you how you can install this Live Server extension. It will save you a lot of time. Okay, so if you want any more explanation about the user interface and what does each button or a menu do, please go through the link that I show at the bottom here. You should be able to get all the information that you need, and it's a good idea also to get yourself familiar with the what do you call it, the VS Code. Before we leave these sections, let me talk about some of the feature that is very useful in VS Code when you're doing your HTML coding. So one of the major advantages that I will show it to you now is that, let's say if we wanted to create a h1 or heading 1's element, so we need to usually type h1 and we close the bracket, and as you can see that VS Code close the bracket for you automatically. But in actual case, you don't really need to do this at all. So what you need to do is you don't even need to type the angle bracket. You just have to type h1 and press enter. It will automatically create the h1 element for you. On top of that, say if we wanted to create something in between h1, let's say a paragraph, for instance. It will, as I said, you just hit P and then the paragraph will actually automatically created. And on top of that, if you see it very carefully, the paragraph element is actually has a little bit of indent to show that this paragraph element is actually belongs to the header element. So the other thing that you can do is that you can actually collapse the header element. You can see the downwards here, and whatever inside will not be shown. And this sometimes this is very, very useful if you just want to concentrate a certain part of the code, and you can collapse the rest of the elements so that it doesn't clutter the screen. Okay, so if you want to know more about what each menu do or any user interface, please go through the video on the link that I have shown below to get yourself familiarized with the VS Code before you start using it. Okay, that is the end of this VS Code section.